I hate to break it to you, but you're under hypnosis. And so am I, and so is everyone. We're all under hypnosis to some degree, and to varying degrees. Some are in much deeper hypnosis than others. And the biggest instigator or catalyst for this mass hypnosis, if you will, is the media, the mainstream media, because they've created a sort of fear-based programming or a fear-based hypnosis. So you can look at it as hypnosis, programming, conditioning, things like that. So we're all under some form of hypnosis, and even this reality, in my opinion, undergo some form of hypnosis just to even be here. But that's another subject. I'm talking about how the media creates and exploits this. So their constant fear-mongering and projections of fear, it becomes like something like the Pavlov's dog, the Pavlovian theory. So they ring a bell, the dog salivates. And that's what it's become in terms of news events. News events are the ringing of the bell, and then people exhibit, especially the people in deeper hypnosis or deeper conditioning or programming, they exhibit perfectly predictable responses to that stimulus. And if you want to read an interesting document, look up Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Look into that. It's mapped out how programmed humans exhibit certain emotions or reactions to specific stimuli. You don't believe me? It happens. You know, if there's a terrorist attack, people want more safety, even if the terrorist attack is not validated, even if it's not truthful. People want more safety, so they give up their freedoms. That's the exhibited response within people that are programmed in fear. That's their predictable response. And this is all mapped out. If you want to look into that more, look into Hegelian dialect or problem reaction solution. To look into that problem reaction solution. So we all exhibit predictable responses to some degrees. And those who control the media, as you can tell, like no one would ever argue that the news shows the nice things in humanity. It's all fear-based, all fear-based. It's just the worst of the world. And a lot of it's made up too, but it shows the worst of the world. It is fear-based programming. So the first step is to turn that bullshit off. Stop watching the news, especially the mainstream news. And even in alternative news, like Alex Jones is a fearmonger himself. He may have valid points, but he's a fearmonger, and he's programming people with fear in different ways. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So reduce your consumption. If you reduce your consumption, you are going to allow yourself to drift out of that hypnosis to some degree. Okay? And stop exhibiting those programmed responses. And those programmed responses are usually not really based in love or compassion. They're usually outrage or violence or hatred or things like that. So whenever you find yourself outraged, hateful at some group, things like that, it's probably a response that has been programmed within you. And you are a pawn in someone else's agenda. So keep that in mind. If you're exhibiting a response that is based in fear, so things like violence, hatred, outrage, that kind of thing, you're being programmed. Of course, you have to be aware of things. But if you're aware of something like police brutality without having that like outrage, like you want to go punch a cop in the face, you know, you could be aware without having that visceral reaction. If you have that visceral reaction, you're programmed to some degree. Because that's the trigger word. And hypnotists use this. Like I said, Pavlov used this on the dog experiment. Hypnotists and people that use mind control have trigger words. So when a hypnotist uses a trigger word, the person that's hypnotized adapts to that trigger word. They decode reality based upon that trigger word. Same with mind control. When someone is under mind control, which is kind of hypnosis basically, when the hypnotist says a trigger word, they exhibit that reaction that the trigger word is programmed to. And this is what the mainstream media does on a large collective scale. They are saying trigger words and triggering people in different ways. You see it. Whenever something's announced in the news, people get triggered. Those people are under fear-based programming. So tune out with, don't watch the news. Don't watch the news. Focus on what's around you. Do good in your life. Create good things. Spread love to those around you, to everyone you encounter. Everyone you interact with on social media. Spread love. Okay? Deprogram yourself. Do not fall into that hypnosis that the media perpetuates. Okay? But that doesn't mean do nothing. It means spread love to those around you instead of being just absorbing the programming and exhibiting program responses. And then, along with tuning out of that, tune in to yourself. Because that's the key. So meditate more. Get in tune with your intuition and your emotions. Become aware of your reactions within. And act based upon your own intuition. Don't react to things that are happening on TV. Act on your own volition. And then you become less predictable. That's the thing. When you act on intuition, when you follow the wisdom of your heart, you become spontaneous, dynamic, and unpredictable. Okay? So then you become less and less programmed, less and less under hypnosis. You no longer exhibit those very predictable responses. So you're under less control. Because the more predictable your response is, the closer you are to a robot, to an automaton essentially. And the more spontaneous and intuitive you are and dynamic you are, the more human you are. If you're exhibiting predictable responses, you're less human, essentially. You're more like a robot. So get in tune with your intuition and act spontaneously. Don't have preset responses. Don't have programmed reactions to things. Get in tune with yourself. Act based upon your own intuition. And the other point is, if you really get in tune with your intuition and your heart wisdom, and you get out of that fear-based mind control, you get out of that amygdala reactory pattern, because the amygdala part of our brain is the fight or flight response. And that's what they keep us in. That's what the media keeps you in, that fight or flight. And that also cuts off critical thinking and objective thinking. But if you get in tune with your intuition, you do that meditation, you become aware, you become mindful of what you're doing, of how you feel, your responses. Once you have that awareness, you're able to act out of love as opposed to fear. Because if you're programmed, you're basically just exhibiting fear-based responses automatically. So it gives you that choice to act out of love instead of fear, and that's the ultimate lesson here. You have to get yourself to the point where you're able to choose love over fear in every situation. Because if you're acting out of fear, what are you doing? You're not doing good. You're contributing to divide and conquer. And if you're exhibiting fear-based responses, you are probably, most likely, a pawn in a greater agenda, malevolent agenda. That's why love is like a courageous, rebellious response. To show love. To act out of compassion. That's the key. If you're not acting out of compassion, then you're contributing to the woes of the world. And I know everyone wants to create a better world. No one wants to suffer more or create more suffering. But it's just that desire to create betterment, it gets skewed and it gets hijacked through different filters. But you have to get to that place where you consciously choose love over fear, where you consciously choose compassion in every situation. So ask yourself this. Are you acting out of compassion, or are you exhibiting programmed responses based in fear? Choose compassion, my friends, all right? I love you. Peace, peace, much love, and one love.